What is on my little tiny mind today? About 3 months ago, I was asked to lead a funeral. Uh, I do that a lot, as you know. But this one happened to be at an out of the way cemetery near Princeton. I had never been there before, and it's not that big of a cemetery, and in a it's not in a real easy to find place. But I turned my Google Maps on to find it. Now, you can't make it up, all right? I'm telling you the truth. I turned the Google Maps on, and it took me right to the cemetery, like it's supposed to. As soon as I turned into the cemetery, Google Maps announced, "Welcome to your final destination." Well, being in a cemetery, I don't think I wanted to hear that. Welcome to your final destination. You know, I did laugh, and then I got a little nervous. We all know what our final destination is. We all know what happens, but it's over for us, and we're going to go somewhere. That's all we know, really. But what we don't know is how long is it going to be before we get to that point. Nobody really knows. Moshe made it to 120 years, exactly to the day. That is the traditional number of living that we should not exceed 120 years, according to the way the Tanakh explains life. But I have to be honest with you, I have never in my whole life ever done a funeral for somebody who was 120. I'm sure none of you are surprised by that, but I never did. But the truth is, a far more realistic number, which today is actually young, comes from King David, David HaMelech. It's in Psalms 90, chapter 90, verse 10, and it says, "The days of our lives are 70. So that 70 means 3 times 20, so that's 60, plus 10 is 70. So the days of our lives are 70 years, or if given the strength, 80 years. In other words, 80 years. But most people forget that last one and just say 70. As for me, as you all know, I fully plan to live forever. So far, I'm succeeding. I'm batting 1,000. Still here. Yep, I'm going to live forever. But everybody else, you got 70 years. And most of you on this call, I think, or not most, but many on this call have already exceeded that, thank God. So it's interesting, however, and we all know this, especially if you go to Florida in the wintertime, that human beings have searched for that elusive fountain of youth, even though we know we all must reach our final destination, and nobody's found the fountain of youth. Probably because there ain't one, right? There isn't one. But I think I don't really care for this guy, Woody Allen. I like some of the things that he's provided us, but personally, I'm not crazy for the man. But he did say something that I think is very interesting. He said, "I don't want to achieve immorality through work. I want to achieve immorality by not dying." That's very clever, right? Unfortunately, other than me, that's not an option for him. So I have heard people say about a loved one, "Why must he die?" Or "Why can't she live forever?" Well, the answer is a simple law of physics: entropy. What is entropy? It's the natural tendency of all things to move from order to chaos. It is known as the second law of thermodynamics. That's easier to say than entropy. The second law of thermodynamics. Everything must fall apart eventually, even the sun, most of the universe, but the university keeps growing bigger and bigger. So maybe the universe is here to stay. I don't know. But I plan to stick around to find out, but I don't know yet. Anyway, there is a poet by the name of William Butler Yeats, and he put this best in his poem. The Second Coming is the name of the poem. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Anyway, the gift of knowing that we will eventually die helps us to confront life. It actually is a gift that we know we're going to die. But simply put, nothing lives forever. So what do we wish to accomplish while we still have the gift of life? Think of this. Moshe's on his deathbed. He knows he's not going to, this is it. This is the end. He's putting his affairs in order. But what about us? You know, this coming week we got Yom Kippur. And one of the most powerful prayers on Yom Kippur is the Unatana Tokef prayer, Barosh Hashanah Unatana Tokef. And we read it on Yom Kippur. I mean, we will read it on Yom Kippur, but we read it on Rosh Hashanah. What does it say? On Rosh Hashanah it is written, and on the fast of Yom Kippur it is sealed. Who shall live and who shall die? That's the question we ask. And that, I don't know about you, but every time over the years that I've asked that question, it saddens me to ask that question, because it is sobering. I used to know so many people. I remember looking out into the synagogue, seeing all these people who I knew, and they were with me for years, and I was with them. And slowly but surely, those seats emptied. Not because they didn't want to come anymore, but because they went to go where I was that day. They went to a cemetery to stay. So saying that prayer is sobering. It really is. But there's one line that jumped out at me this year that normally doesn't. But this year it did, because of what happened a couple of weeks ago when the person Charlie Kirk was killed at 81 years of age. You know, I don't really care if you like Charlie Kirk or you didn't like Charlie Kirk or you didn't even know Charlie Kirk. I don't care. That's not the point here. It could have been anybody. It could have been, pick a name. But to shoot somebody because you don't like their views, that should never happen in a civilized society to anybody. Again, Charlie Kirk is who it happened to, but it could have been anybody. It shouldn't happen. What kind of a society are we living in that we call civilized? It's not civilized. And what it says is, mi bekirtso, umi lo bekirtso. Who will reach the measure of their days and who will not reach it? Who will reach the measure of their days and who will not reach it? These are questions that imply that we have been given a certain time period to live. It's already there. It says a time period. You got a certain time period to live. Some of us make it, and sadly, some of us have their lives cut much too short. In those tragic occasions when I have conducted a funeral for a person whose life we all thought was cut short, I sometimes use the metaphor of a beautiful piece of music. In any piece of music, there are long notes and there are short notes. The short notes are just as important as the long notes in making that piece of music beautiful. It is the same thing with life. There are those who reach our full allotted measure of days, and there are those who don't. They're cut short. In the case of Charlie Kirk, he was only 31. He has a beautiful wife. He has two little kids. But you know, the short notes can make a difference. Again, I don't care if you like him or not, but look at the impact he had on society in his short life. We find in Psalm 90:10, chapter 90, verse 10, teach us to number our days that we can gain a heart of wisdom. You know, a few of us are going to reach the age of Moshe. I hope we do, and an extra day to boot. Who wants to die on our birthday? But as few of us are going to get there, we should all confront our own mortality. We should all work hard to leave this world just a little bit better than the way we found it. I teach those words to every bar and bat mitzvah kid I ever see. Let's make the world as a Jewish person just a little bit better than the way we found it. Don't try to solve world hunger. You'll get nothing done. Don't try to boil the ocean. You can't. Just leave the world a little bit better than the way we found it. And with that, I want to wish everyone here a Shabbat Shalom. And only if the doctor allows, you can fast and have an easy one. But if you're not healthy enough to do it, or if you need hydration, don't do it. I beg you, don't fast if that's the case.